Sonny Melendrez, Sonny Radio, sonnyradio.com.
Hello, it's Sonny Melendrez, and welcome to the positive side of the radio spectrum. This is the all-new Sonny Melendrez Show. Now, it's no secret that each week we strive to bring you inspiration and entertainment through storytelling, fascinating guests, exclusive celebrity interviews, and more, all delivered with lots of enthusiasm. And we come to you from studios located deep in the heart of Texas, San Antonio, the birthplace of hospitality. We hope you'll visit soon. And now, on with the show.
Sonny Radio, sonnyradio.com, San Antonio.
Here's the pass, on into the Buffalo zone. Mahar goes to the corner of the pass, and oh, wow!
But watch Malarchuk. That's the story right now with Ian Moran. Oh,
look at that.
Oh, boy. Take the, man. That is the,
oh, my God.
Oh, please take the camera off and don't even bring it over there, please.
Oh, my God.
It was March 22nd, 1989. Buffalo Sabres hockey goalie Clint Mararchuk suffers one of the most horrifying injuries in the history of the sport when his throat is slashed by an opponent's skate. At that moment, Clint Malarchuk's life would change forever. Clint and his wife Joanie join me now from Colorado. Now, Clint, walk us through those horrifying moments.
I thought I was dying and gonna die, dead, gonna die. Like, it was so, my mind was like, I'm dying, I'm dead, I'm dying, I'm dead. But so that's basically a trauma that you go through. You know, I said, call my mom, get the team chaplain here. So I'm basically preparing for death.
It was kind of a freak accident.
Okay, well, the puck was in the corner, game passed out to the front of the net. I came across, as a goalie, you go down on your knees and skid across, and my defenseman was holding up the opposing player, and he actually flipped backwards, and his skate came right up and just cut my jugular.
And you didn't pass out, did you?
No, I didn't. So that's the part I was talking about earlier where I'm dying. No, I'm not. Or yes, I am. But basically preparing for death, telling one trainer to call my mom, tell her I love her because she's watching the game on TV. A lot of people thought it was incredible that I actually got up and skated off the ice because I didn't want my mom to see me die on TV. A lot of things were in those, 30, 40 seconds that went through my head, but I was preparing to die.
But your trainer basically saved your life, didn't he?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, he was a Vietnam medic. And, a lot of trainers are trained for, injuries and this and that. And they're even, now they use my video or that video on, for training medical trainers for this type of incident. But having seen all the blood and gush and everything in Vietnam, was very calm. You got to remember, he was 20,000 people in the arena, plus a TV audience. A lot of pressure on him in that situation, and he handled it brilliantly and saved my life.
And the amazing part was that you were on the ice 10 days later.
Yeah, well, right or wrong, I'm not sure. But, I grew up on a ranch, working on a ranch, cowboy. The mentality, not just from the ranch life, but also from my parents, where, you get bucked off a horse, you get right back on. So I felt like the doctors and, therapists were saying, you just take the season off or even retire. They're like, you got a lot of stuff on your plate. And my mentality was, no, you got to get back as quick as you can. So as soon as the stitches came out, I went back.
Incredible. And so how did you meet Joanie?
You want to hear a Hallmark story?
It was in San Antonio.
San Antonio. I was coaching the San Antonio Rampage. I was assistant coach there. And our practice facility was Joanie's, she was a skating director there. Yeah.
So 15 years after the accident, you're in San Antonio.
Yeah, and I walk into our practice facility. I'm getting everything ready for practice, and I see this beautiful, blonde, gorgeous lady, And she looked at me and went, "Wow, you might be the most handsome man I've ever seen in my life." And I was
I think it went the other way.
yeah.
He actually walked out of the rink, and I was next to a window in the arena, and he turned and looked at me, and I could read his lips, and he said, "Wow, you're beautiful." And then that was it. I didn't see him until the next day when he came to apologize. And I looked at him and I said, "There's no need to apologize. You completely made my week."
Oh. So how long after that were you married?
Oh, probably a year and a half after that.
Wow.
What's cool is Joanie went through so much with me on my mental illness, my PTSD, and all that. We had I would say a section of a good romance and everything, and then I started to spiral downhill. Lack of medication not working. Richard Zednick cut his jugular vein. There's a lot of factors of my spiral, but she held in there with me, and I owe my life and my happiness to her.
It's obvious. And when I read your story, it's just incredible. So, all right. So now take us to something that happened. And of course, like you said, you spiraled, you had all these different things. You saw another player who had a similar incident, and all of a sudden it all came back to you. You were suffering from PTSD and all kinds of other emotions that were kind of taking over you. October 7th, 2008, you're now at your ranch.
Well, I had been really struggling with my PTSD, not even being diagnosed with PTSD. Now I look back, reflecting and diagnosed, that's what happened to me. 20 years undiagnosed. I was drinking, self-medicating with alcohol, not doing good in any way, mentally or emotionally, even spiritually. I'd pray, but it was almost like, what's the use? I'm done here. And Joanie came home that afternoon, about 2:30 in the afternoon, and she looked at me and she said, "Clint, what is going on? You just look like you're in so much pain." I said, "Yeah. And you know what I want to do?" I said, "I'm going to show you." And I put the gun under my chin, and I said, "I just want to turn my damn brain off."
And what was your diagnosis at this point?
I had no diagnosis at that point. I was really struggling for a couple months, and Joanie was trying to get me help. And I want help. I know I'm sick, but also I don't want to be committed because of the mental health stigma. They're going to throw me in a mental home and lock me away. All these fears, and even a little paranoia. So I had a lot of irrational thinking, wouldn't you say, Joanie? Yeah, and
it's kind of like, I don't know if you've ever been around anybody that struggles with PTSD and anxiety and depression. In the morning, there'd be about 2.5 hours where he was pretty coherent and rational and would agree that he needed help. But then he would say, "But I'm really tired," probably because of the constant drinking and anxiety and being awake. And he'd say, "Let me just have today to relax, and then I will agree to go with you to get help." But then come noon, 1 o'clock, I'm guessing his brain just couldn't take it, and he would start having a drink to calm himself down. And at that point, there was no amount of alcohol that was going to calm him down, and it basically just turned into like Groundhog Day every day. For 2 hours, you'd say, "Yes, we're going to go get help, but let's go tomorrow." And then the day would start, and we'd do it again the next day.
Yeah, and what's amazing about this, talking about this, that some of your listeners are going to totally go, "Holy crap, that was me," or "That was my husband," or "That's my wife." We've learned through our journey, there's a lot of people that really suffer with depression and mental illness, depression, anxiety, and in my case, mental illness, which became PTSD and really became very, very, well, obviously I attempted suicide. So I was at the deepest and darkest probably that you can get.
It was amazing that you didn't kill yourself. You stayed conscious the whole time, right?
Yeah. He actually told me, "Don't tell anybody. I can fix this. I fixed it before. I can fix this.
I can do stitches." So.
And he walked around. He went and got another shirt on like, I don't know how many yards it was away, put another shirt on. Then he walked another couple of yards into our barn, got a towel, put under his chin, and then started walking around again, the whole time telling me, I can fix this. Don't tell anybody. Don't call anybody.
But you did.
I did. I had 911 on the phone right away. I was telling them what was going on, and they were obviously asking questions, trying to find out what was going on. And
now, at this point, was he bleeding profusely?
Not a lot. He had a little blood coming out of his nose and his chin, but he went and got a towel and stuck it under his chin. It was almost like he just had kind of a bad bloody nose, and his chin was bleeding.
Incredible. And you wouldn't leave his side?
No. Tell him why.
Well, when the paramedics didn't show up first, the cops showed up. And it seemed like, we live in a small town. It seemed like every cop that's been employed in our town was here. Seems like a million of them. And they were just, to me, very, very overwhelming and very almost intrusive at first.
Well, you have to understand, they don't know if it's a suicide attempt or maybe the wife shot the guy. So they don't know all the details.
So they were asking me, did you have the gun? And then we had 2 dogs, like ranch dogs, and they were huddled up by Clint, and they kept wanting me to get the dogs away, and they had their hands on their guns, and they just looked ready to pounce. And I thought, you know what? Clint didn't kill himself. He's not dead. And he's still feeling the same way he did before he pulled the trigger. So my feeling was he might just not even try purposely to escalate things. But if the cops start coming in and yelling and screaming and getting mad at him,
I could get escalated.
That he could get escalated, because I've seen him do it before. So I went and sat right next to him, and I wouldn't move, and I knew they weren't going to do anything with me sitting there. So I just waited until the paramedics came, and then I just swapped places with them.
That is incredible. So at this point, did you go to the hospital?
Reluctantly.
Reluctantly, yeah, for sure. They took me to our small town hospital, and then they wanted to get me on a helicopter for a life flight to Reno, the biggest city closest to us. And I wasn't going.
He didn't even want to get in the ambulance at our house. We had quite a few people calling and showing up, because we have a good friend who is the local dog catcher, so she's got a police radio. She was letting friends know. So then, as I'm trying to make calls and people are calling me, they're trying to keep me away from Clint to get him in the ambulance. So I'm telling people, look, Clint won't even get in the ambulance. So I think we had one of our friends show up, and then they took him to the local hospital, and they were going to put him on a care flight, and he didn't want to get in. He goes, you know how dangerous those things are? And I'm like,
and they actually said, sir, you have a bullet in your head, and we don't know where it is. It could move and kill you at any second. I said, well, I'm not getting on that jalopy.
So I think they sedated him.
Yeah, they did.
And then he was off, and the hospital in Reno is about an hour drive from here, but they got him there pretty quick. And they actually put him in surgery that afternoon.
And they got the bullet out?
No,
I got a souvenir.
I had a friend drive me to the hospital, and they told me that they said, we're going to take him into surgery now. We want to get a quick look. If we can take it out, we can take it out now before everything starts swelling. And the surgeon came out and said that they did not take the bullet out because it had lodged in his sinus passageway, and it hadn't done any damage other than a hole in the roof of his mouth, split his tongue, and knocked a tooth out. They said that if they were to try to go in and get it, they might do more damage, and that if it were to move, it would just slide down, and it would then be easier to get out, but it's not going to cause him any problems.
Amazing. Now, this did the problems persisted with your mental state, though, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, I obviously had to accept PTSD and all my other issues. child abuse, self-medicating with alcohol. So I went to a treatment center and addressed those issues.
But you didn't stay. I mean, you tried to actually, you were in.
Oh yeah, I broke out.
Couple of times.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I bust out and reluctantly it was like, I can't stay here. I'm mad. I got one thing people should know about PTSD. There's a lot of anger because we lose the ability to control our thoughts, our emotions, our depression, anxiety, all these things, and it becomes like you just become a real mad person. And so I had a lot of anger that I had to work through. And I had a lot of anger at Joanie, my career, life, just everything.
Now, Joanie, I have to ask you, what made you stay with Clint during all this time?
I'm very good looking.
A lot of people ask, how did you do it and how did you stay? I love him and he's my best friend. We got together when we were older, and I think, you kind of know who you are as your own person. And then when you meet somebody when you're older, this is my thoughts on this, is like, you kind of know it's going to work or you don't a lot sooner than you do when you're younger. And I mean, I don't know, we always just clicked right away when we met. We never stopped each other from doing anything. I mean, we'd argue about stuff, but we never really fought.
No, we'd only argue or fight because of my mental state. But when I'm and have been good, we never fight.
No, I mean, we do everything together.
Everything.
We've done, hockey camps, skating together.
Several businesses, a horse business.
We speak together.
Yeah.
And he'd always support everything that I ever wanted to do. Any thoughts or dreams I ever wanted to pursue, well, do it. And anything he wanted to do, I was always supportive of it. So I don't know. I think everybody has a fuse on how much crap in their life they can put up with. Mm-hmm. And I know that I have a very, very long fuse. I know that when I get to the end of it, then I've pretty much tried everything I can try, and I've exhausted all my, myself, and I've realized that's it, I'm done, and I don't ever look back. I just hadn't gotten to the end of my fuse yet. And as bad as that day was on October 7th, sometimes I look back and think, that was probably a blessing in disguise, because we weren't getting any help. I mean, there was no emergency help to come by and look. I couldn't take him into the emergency room. I couldn't get him in to see a doctor. They could get us in, but in a month, and they said, we can emergently see you for a mental situation if he's harmed himself or harmed you. And I said, that's not happening. He wants to kill himself. So when your help is available, I'm not going to need it. Just a lot of things. And the fact that we had the NHL behind us, they actually, alumni, they helped us get the help we needed. They helped him get into the rehab. I don't think I would have been able to afford it. So as bad as that day was, it kind of was the turning point and turned everything around. I mean, he did end up in there for 6 months. He thought he was only going to be in there for a month, but I think there were so many people looking out for him. I think we got lucky. Everything just turned out for the better, and we came out on the other side.
Well, you were lucky to have each other, that's for sure. I understand that you were in a coma for 10 days, and they actually kept you in that coma, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think because I had swelling and...
and he had been... This is what they had said. They said that he has so much trauma from the gunshot, and he is going to be detoxing from alcohol, that we don't want him awake going through all the detoxing stuff and the trauma from the pain, that it's going to be better and he's going to recover better if we just keep him unconscious or sedated for however long, and it ended up being for a whole week.
And who was in the hospital room when you came to, Clint?
My mother and Joanie. And yeah, that was a moment of reckoning for sure. That's where I got the thought of God spared me for those that are still suffering, and why am I alive? I should have been dead, with my jugular vein, and now this. So I couldn't believe how life-changing that was, because, you get healthy, And yeah, I've had my ups and downs beyond that day, but the book really changed our lives. Like I said, I was spared for a reason, and I better wake up and smell the coffee, because people are, holding guns or a bottle of pills or whatever it might be, suffering in despair, that I have lived through and got healthy. So this is what Joanie and I do now.
What are the kind of messages that you get, as well as people who actually see you speak and come up to you? What do they say to you?
Oh, it's overwhelming. Joanie and I cry a lot, hugging people. For the first time in their life, they've heard somebody share an experience, because I suffered in silence. Now they're suffering in silence. And to hear us speak and tell our story and come out on the other side is very, very important. It's about hope and recovery. And for the first time, a lot of people say, thank you. I thought I was the only one. Or if they realized they struggled with stuff, they thought, no one's as bad as me. I can't get help. So we, I guess, introduced the first step of realizing that this is correctable, and you can lead a happy and productive life. And
you've been all over the world, haven't you?
Well, we travel.
Almost.
Yeah, we travel a lot.
We probably have a bucket list here, but yeah, we've been a lot of places.
The Arctic, we went up there because they have a huge alcoholism and suicide rate up there, and that was incredible. Last March, we went up there, and the people were wonderful. But to hear their stories. I mean, one guy told me he had showed me his hockey picture growing up when he was about 15, 16. 5 of his teammates had died by suicide, and he had a friend that wasn't on the team. So he personally knows 6 people that have died by suicide. So, and they loved us. They were just so embracing, and it was a wonderful trip.
Yeah, these are small villages. One of them only had 200 people. One had 600 people. So the percentage rate, too, of how many that live up there is pretty high.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
I can imagine. Now, how can people get a hold of you on the web?
Oh, Malarchuk.com, Malarchuk.com.
And they can get the book there as well.
Actually, you can get the book on. I have a link on his website to his book. You can get it on Amazon. There's actually 2 different titles, but it's the same book. In the United States, the name is A Matter of Inches, and it's available on Amazon, and I believe on that Kindle or whatever they call it, the online reader thing.
Sure, Kindle reader, yeah.
Yeah, and then in Canada, the book is called The Crazy Game, and you can get that on Amazon.ca.
Is there anything else you'd like to add to somebody who might be listening whose attention you've gotten because of the situation they may be in? What would you say to them?
I would say you're not alone. All the emails, I was overwhelmed that so many people struggle with mental illness or emotional sickness, which means divorce, bad boss, bad job situation, bad marriage. I don't know. It's not always mental illness, but people do struggle. And it just seems to be what life is about sometimes. But you are not alone. That is my main message, is you are not alone. But also, you are not weak. You are not weak. You are sick or injured mentally with PTSD or mental illness. And the great thing is you can get well, happy, and productive.
And if you're a loved one that has somebody suffering from it, I guess my thing is they all kind of lash out the same way, and you really don't know it until you start talking to other family members of somebody. So try not to take things personally, and try to get education and kind of see the big picture behind it.
Yeah, what Joanie's saying is through all our struggles in therapy, I was a very angry man, and I verbally lashed out at my closest best friend, which was Joanie. And because I felt safe enough that she's not going to run from me. But also I did a lot of damage. And once she learned through therapy that this guy, there's the Clint, the good guy, and there's Clint, the evil twin with mental illness or PTSD and the sickness. Once she learned to differentiate between those 2 things, we became close again. And
Yep. And I had a support group. My family is a huge support group. So I think whoever you are and wherever you are, try to get a small support group around you that you feel comfortable, talking with.
Well, that is my visit with Clint and Joanie Malarchuk. Now you'll find the link to Clint's site as well as where to find his books on the web by visiting sunnyradio.com/show. That's sunnyradio.com/show, where you can also re-listen to this show as well as past shows on demand 24/7. And don't forget to subscribe to the Sonny Melendrez Show podcast wherever you happen to get your podcasts. Until next time, I'm Sonny Melendrez, and I leave you with Clint Malarchuk's words of encouragement. No matter where you are or what you may be going through, you're never alone. Bye-bye.